The Live Stream Code and Rating Administration has rated this online event PG. All ages admitted. Please be kind and stay on topic.
Good evening and welcome to the Good Stuff Live. My name is Dave Sundstrom, and if you enjoy talking about music, movies, mostly TV from decades gone by, you've come to the right place. So it looks like we have a good group of people hanging out. Have been hanging out for a few minutes, it looks like. Let me go ahead and say hello to those folks that have been visiting with each other in the chat for the last few minutes. First to arrive, at least as far as I can tell, was channel member Lance Chaffin. Says, congrats to Angela and hello to me. We've got Retro Warehouse here as well. Says, finally might catch live tonight for the first time in a while. Great to have you here. Let's see who else we've got. Melina Long is hanging out in the chat. Been sharing some interesting facts. 1975 was the birth year of Fergie, Ava Longoria, Charlize Theron, Drew Barrymore, Enrique Iglesias, and Angelina Jolie. Very cool. Got a very loud motorcycle outside of my window here. Love that. Let's see who else is here. Kenneth Wilkinson, welcome. Good to have you here. Channel member Tracy Roth Myers, welcome to the live stream tonight, Tracy. James Steibel, welcome. Good to have you with us as well. Channel member Angela McArdle, welcome. Adrian James, always a treat, my friend. Channel member John Collins, hello, and welcome to the live stream. John was a participant in my last video, the one that I published this morning. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it's on some of television's most groundbreaking moments. It's a lot of fun visiting with John. Angela says, channel member Angela McArdle says, I don't remember 1975 because I wasn't born till August of that year. So I'm just going to relax and live vicariously through you guys who do remember. Well, I was 11, so there are things I remember and there are things that I don't remember of 1975. But it's always fun to look back at, look back a few years. What we're going to do tonight is we are going to spend a few minutes remembering Jay North. And then we'll move into the topic of the evening, 1975. Sakina McMurran, welcome to the live stream. Channel member John Collins says, Angela, I wasn't born until 1979, so I'm right there and here with you. However, I'm here to support Dave because he and everything he does is worthy and worthwhile. Well, that's kind of you to say. John, Julie Evans says, hey, Dave, and everyone else, don't remember 1975 because I wasn't born until 1976. Well, there you go. All right. I think, hopefully I'm not missing folks. First milestone message of the evening from channel member Angela McArdle, who has been a member of the channel, a supporting member of the channel for almost 2 years now, 23 months. Thank you so much for that, Angela. And it has been awesome having you part of this community. Let's see. Uncle Paul's here from Uncle Paul's Beatles Pop Playhouse says, had the extreme pleasure to meet Jay North at a collector's show. We posed for a picture and he signed a cast photo. A very nice memory. That sounds like it was a nice memory. And Retro Warehouse says, Wonder Woman and the Bionic Woman both came out in 1975. Great shows. Great shows. Ernest Cruz is here hanging out with us tonight in the live stream. Welcome, Ernest. Good to have you here with us. Channel member Sean Innes says, hey, all, 1975, I think I was in the 4th grade. Not a good year. I had a horrible teacher. What is it about 4th grade teachers? Mine wasn't great either. Tom McCluskey, a.k.a. the Hungry Jerk. Welcome. Good to have you with us. And Rhymes with Orange, welcome. Rachel in the 208. Yes, you did. You made it. Thanks for being here with us. And Tug, the unapologetic geek, who's been a supporting member of the channel for 18 months, says hello, using his milestone message. Hey, Eric, good to have you here. Thank you for all your support. And Jerry Gillespie is here as well. Welcome, Jerry. A Child is here. Good to see you as well. Let's see. And Michelle Books says, hello, Dave, and all, good to see you. It's great to have you with us tonight, Michelle. And Joe Black is here, SKOL. Not quite sure what that stands for. I immediately think stay cool, but probably isn't that. Let's see who else we have here hanging out. Don't want to miss anyone. I'd feel terrible if I missed someone like Willie Bowen. Hello, Willie. Good to have you hanging out with us tonight. Welcome, welcome. Channel member Rob Pinto says, Welk free zone, please. The only way I'll play Welk is if someone bribes me. So you're probably safe tonight, Rob, and thank you for all your support. Tracy Roth-Myers uses her milestone message for the month saying, Dave, it's always fun when you post. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your continued patronage, your support for the last 41 months. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but my latest video that I've posted in advance, it'll come out for everyone to see in the next, probably on Wednesday morning, but in advance, there's a new video out there on Roger C. Carmel, I think you say Carmel, Roger C. Carmel, who you may not recognize the name, but you'll recognize the face. He's the actor who played Harcourt Fenton Mudd on Star Trek and Colonel Gum on Batman, and was in a host of TV shows as a guest star or one of the primary actors during the 60s and 70s. Let's see who else we have in the chat. Jerry Gillespie says, I was 20 in 1975. Awesome. Awesome. And yes, it will be a milestone birthday for you. Indeed, on May 2nd. Happy birthday in advance, Jerry. Auburn Kim's here. Auburn Kim says that they were in the second grade, and it was a pretty good year. My second grade year wasn't bad either. Sakina turned 13 in the fall of 1975. Eric says that he had two different fourth grade teachers. They were both pretty good, actually. I may have had a crush on one of them. That's awesome. Paul from Uncle Paul's Beatles Playhouse says, One Day at a Time debuted in 1975, as well as my 12-year-old then crush on Valerie Bertinelli. Which, who of us didn't have a crush on Valerie? Tug says, no bubbles, no bubbles. I'm fighting a cold. I'm on the mend, almost better, but you can tell my voice gets a little crackly. Rhymes with Orange says, my fifth grade teacher was bad. Fifth was my worst, too. Fourth wasn't great. Fifth was my worst. And sixth was a recovery, which was nice. I remember I threw my desk at him. Holy cow. Yeah, you got angry. The Mary Tyler Moore spin-off, Phyllis, debuted in 75, which co-starred Lisa Gerritsen as Phyllis's daughter. I'm working on a video on Lisa. Channel member John Collins drops a super chat for $5. Thank you very much, good sir. John says, Dave, thank you for choosing to always narrate your presentations. AI narration takes me totally out of whatever the given presentation material is. There may be a time and place for AI, but I don't see it in my videos, and I'm certainly not using it. Whenever I detect AI narration, I tune out as well. I don't like it. And this is coming from a guy who enjoys using AI to make music. So, I mean, I'm not an AI hater, but when it comes to narrating my own videos, you will, for better or worse, be stuck with my voice. Oh, that was a super chat. John, I need to throw you a little bit of thanks here, a little bit of love. Let me see what I can find for you. Let's whip something up here. You know, combinations, Dukes, and then Spidey, I think we're going to go with.
Someone is trying to embarrass me.
Thanks for your support, John. Truly appreciated. All right, let's keep going. Yes, Jerry's right. Roger C. Carmel was a co-star in The Mothers-in-Law. Let's see. Did I miss someone? Nope, I don't think I've missed anything here. Yes, and you're right, Willie. Jay North did the voice of a teenage Bam Bam, Bam Bam on the Flintstones cartoons in the 70s. The furry bastard. We'll say it that way. Says, I'm from the UK. Seems the 70s were different over here. I turned 11 in 75. I think we're the same age, my furry friend. Retro Warehouse says, oh my goodness, the 6th grade was my recovery year too. I was so bad in the 5th. Laugh out loud. Yeah. 5th was a horrible year for me. But 6th, good old Mr. Beckstead, wherever you are, buddy, you were awesome. Ernest Cruz says those AI narrated videos are mostly clickbait videos. That's true. That's how you know sometimes is with the AI narrations, there's common mispronunciations. That doesn't mean I can't mispronounce something, but it's common. Hey, it's Karen Lee Maloney. Welcome. Good to have you with us tonight, Karen. Let's see who else. Oh, a little more memories of elementary school. Channel member Sean Ennis says, my 2nd grade teacher was Ms. Bedford, who left suddenly, and the substitute teacher was Mrs. Golan, whom I had again in 4th grade for the whole year. Ugh. All right, I am caught up. 51 of you are here on the live stream hanging out with me tonight so far. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. If you would do me the honor of clicking that little thumbs up icon that's below the screen, somewhere over here. No, over here. Probably somewhere over there. And giving the video a thumbs up, I would truly appreciate that. John, you're asking questions that I might not catch all of them because of everything going on. I don't know who the actress in that Spider-Man thank you was. Something I need to look up for sure. Okay. Auburn Kim's here. Auburn Kim says, I remember Girl Scout camp that year. We were terrifying each other retelling the movie It's Alive for the ones who did not get to see it. That was a scary movie. Holy cow. All right. I said we were going to talk about Jay North. Let's do it. For those of you who don't know, and I think most everybody knows at this point, Jay North, the star of Dennis the Menace, which was a sitcom. A sitcom, is that the right word? It was a comedy that aired from 1959 to 63-ish, somewhere around there. Maybe a little longer than that. Anyway, Jay has died at the age of 73. His friend, writer, and producer Lori Jacobson revealed on a Facebook post that the actor had died peacefully at home Sunday afternoon following a battle with cancer. It was colon cancer. Folks, get your screenings done. Jacobson later confirmed to USA Today that North's family notified her and her husband, actor John Provost, of North's death. I thought it might be fun to look at some of the things that people have been saying about Jay. Let me see if I can restore that voice just a little bit. This is from Barbara Eden. She says, I just saw the news that Jay North has passed. While Jay and I never worked together, nor were we close, I saw his smiling face at a number of conventions over the years. He was always flashing that familiar smile and bringing smiles to those around him. As you remember, Jay portrayed everyone's favorite little menace, Dennis the Mitchell. This photo, and she's talking about the one on the left there, was taken a few years back when he stopped by my table. That smile instantly identifiable. Dennis the Menace will live on, keeping Jay in everyone's memory for years to come. Butch Patrick said, and Butch Patrick, for those of you that don't know, I think most of you do, played Eddie Munster on The Munsters. This is a tough one. My pal Jay North has passed on. Jay was a very good friend. Kid actors from the 60s are a pretty small group to begin with, and it's shrinking quickly. This pic was 7 years ago. The business was tough on Jay. He seemed happy in Florida, and I'm glad he's at peace. I can't imagine the workload that being Dennis put on him. It definitely wasn't a good time. I had a great run, but lots of others were damaged goods after. R.I.P., my dearest friend. Yeah. I did a video, and you can look it up. Ron Howard is actually on the thumbnail, but Jay's in the background there. On Ron Howard's experience, guest starring on the Dennis the Menace show. And what he saw was mistreatment of Jay North at the hands of a relative. It wasn't a good experience for Jay, but he was a survivor. Let's get back to this. Aaron Murphy says, so sad to share the news about Aaron Murphy says, so sad to share the news about the passing of my old friend Jay North. He was known and loved as Dennis the Menace, and I was lucky to call him a friend. Last message I thought I'd share is from the U.S. Naval Institute that acknowledged the passing of Jay and also acknowledged that Jay was enlisted in the Navy and served aboard the USS Iwo Jima and the USS Dixie. So, while I'm saying this posthumously to Jay, thank you for your service. Okay. As you guys can see, I am still struggling with a cold. Still fighting it. You know, for me, memories of Jay North really are all related to the TV show. I loved Dennis the Menace when I was a kid. I watched it in reruns on one of our local stations during the 70s afternoons after school. And then, of course, I caught it later on when it showed up on Nick at Night. I thought there's no better way to pay tribute and to honor Jay than to play one of those fun promos that they had for Dennis the Menace on Nick at Night. So let's do that now.
The grown-ups of Hilldale. Why do they tremble? Why are they nervous? What are they all afraid of?
Hi, Mr. Welcome.
Dennis!
Dennis!
The Menace. Dun, dun, dun. He's no ordinary kid.
Look at the way his hair sticks up and back.
He's the scariest thing to happen to grown-ups since shaving. Dennis. Dun, dun, dun. The Menace. Dun-dun. Weekdays at 6, 5 Central on Nickelodeon.
I love that. Dun, dun, dun. Dennis the Menace. All right. Let me go back and see if I can see some comments from you guys about Jay, and I'll put those up on the screen. Tug says, I looked a lot like him when I was a kid, had that same haircut and everything. I think there were a lot of us that struggled with that little cowlick in the back, whatever that's called. Willie Bowen says, Jay North also had another TV series called Maya. I do recall that. I don't think I ever saw an episode of that, though. Jerry Gillespie says, after Dennis, Jay was on The Lucy Show, which reunited him with co-star Gail Gordon, who was the second Mr. Wilson, correct? Gail took over for the actor who played Mr. Wilson. Can't remember his name right at the moment. Who played him for most of the seasons, but passed away. Joseph Raynon Jr. says, may Jay be at peace. Thanks for joining us for the live stream, and I hope I didn't butcher your last name too much there. Channel member John Collins says, I appreciate that Ron Howard appreciated Jay North's childhood difficulties. Yeah. Imagine having the Ron Howard was an old soul at an early age, and he recognized some things that a lot of other kids probably didn't pick up on. Rhymes with Orange says that they went to school with Erin Murphy. Very cool. I hear she's a great person. A lot of fun. Tracy says, I hope you're okay, Dave. Me too. Willie Bowen says, I'm an 8-year Navy vet. Thank you for your service as well, sir. Tom McCluskey says, good old Mr. Wilson. Yeah, good old Mr. Wilson. Channel member Angela McArdle says, I found Dennis the Menace on Nick at Night. Great show, but had no idea that they treated him so badly. May he rest in peace. The they was family members. Not necessarily the show's producers or creative people or director. Family members. So shame on them. And that is so often the case. Channel member Carlos Ceja says, I remember Jay in another TV series, Maya, saw that show. Uncle Paul from Uncle Paul's Beatles Pop Playhouse says, unique that Dennis and Donna Reed both lived in a Hilldale set in the promo, and Dennis made an appearance on a Donna Reed episode. I did not know that. Colt 49ers, welcome to the live stream. Good to have you here. Willie Bowen points out that Jay North would have been a perfect if there. Willie Bowen points out that Jay North would have been perfect if there had been a Johnny Quest live action movie in the 60s. Absolutely, good point. And Jerry Gillespie, thank you for the info. Joseph Kearns, yes, was the first Mr. Wilson. Utah native Joseph Kearns. Channel member Lance Chaffin shares his milestone message. He says, hey, and thanks. Thank you for all your support, Lance. 32 months you've been supporting this channel. You're great. And while I'm at it, let me scroll back up because I thought I saw a new channel member. Holy cow, Carrie Stephens. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member and for your support. Let's see. Let me get back to the comments. My buddy Pat McCormick says, amazing life. Ironically became a prison guard for a while. Likely that mentioned. By the way, hi gang. Hey Pat, good to have you here. Channel member Mike D is joining us as well, and yes, I will drink plenty of OJ. That was the advice my brother Steve gave me as well. Have you been drinking OJ? I've been trying. That's more my cup of tea, drinking a little bit of tea. See what I did there? I did not know this. Willie says that Patty Duke was also treated horribly as a child actor. All right. I will try a bit of Honey, My Furry Friend. I will put that in my tea, I think. All right. I think that's a good stopping point for talking about Jay North. Just a great guy. And unfortunate that his experience in the entertainment industry wasn't everything that it could have been, that it should have been. But what I saw as I was going through the various social media channels was someone who still made an impact, was loved by colleagues, and clearly was someone who had friends, had supporters, and when it all comes down, when all's said and done, having people have our backs, to have friends, people we can count on, isn't that what it's all about? All right, 1975. Some of you weren't born. Some of you were born. I was born. I was 11 years old, and I was in the 5th grade. Hey, look at this. Mike Davis. Good to have you here, Mike. You get well as well, buddy. Appreciate it. One more comment. The Furry Bastard says, Dave, is it me, or did those feel-good TV shows from the 60s and 70s actually make the world a better place, somewhat simply by making people feel a little better about themselves and the world? Yes. That's why I talk about these shows on YouTube. That's why I still watch these shows on the various, whether it's streaming services or in many cases on the over-the-air channels that I pick up through and my over-the-air antenna. But they're also, many of them are available on Frndly TV. You guys all know that I'm a big fan of Frndly TV, huge supporter of Frndly TV. It's the least expensive live television service that's out there. And there's over 50 channels on Frndly TV. And a bunch of them, I'd say 10 or more, focus on showing TV shows from decades gone by. And you're absolutely right. Those shows made the world a better place because they showed us what we could be. They focused on our potential instead of all of our faults and all of our shortcomings. And I do believe it made the world a better place. And when I need to get away from the chaos of the modern world, I'm going right back to the Andy Griffith Show or Dennis the Menace or Leave It to Beaver or Star Trek or Gunsmoke. All those shows showed me role models, people that did honorable and good things. So that's why I talk about those things here on YouTube. Hey, Frndly is a partner with the channel. I've got a link for Frndly in the description section of the live stream, or if you're watching this later, the video. And if you want to try it free for 7 days and support the channel, give that link a click. All right. I was starting to talk about 1975, wasn't I? Lots of really cool things happened in 1975. Let me see what I might be able to share with you here. Let's try this. There we go. I see some of you folks saying you already have Frndly. Thank you. Thank you for supporting what I think is the best live TV streaming service out there. I don't want to see them go away. I'm going to talk about the U.S. here because that's where I grew up. That's where I live. Some of your experiences might be a little different depending on where you live. But in the U.S., excuse me, we had just been through Watergate. Richard Nixon had resigned. And it feels weird to say now, but honorably, he did the honorable thing. And facing impeachment, he acknowledged that he'd made mistakes and he resigned from the presidency, and his vice president, Gerald Ford, took over. Gerald Ford became the 38th U.S. president. Back then, in 1975, the average U.S. income was $12,686. Doesn't seem like a lot, but that equates to about $70,000 today. A house would run you $48,000. A new car, a little under $4,000. Minimum wage was $2.10 an hour. Gasoline was well under $1 at 59 cents a gallon. Postage stamps were 13 cents. Sugar, $2.20 for 5 gallons. Milk, $1.65 a gallon. Coffee, $1.12 a pound. Eggs, eggs, 84 cents a dozen. And bread, 28 cents for a loaf. On April 4th, 1975, at a time when most Americans used typewriters, guess who? Yep, that's Bill Gates right there. He looks like all of 15 years old, but I know he was older than that. But with his friend Paul Allen, he found Microsoft, the company that makes computer software, a lot of computer software, and is probably best known for its Windows operating system. On May 10th, 1975, Sony announced the first video cassette recorder to be sold to the consumer. It was a Beta. Tracy, I think you're the one you've told me that your family had a Betamax, right? But this was and there had been video cassette recorders used in like television studios and that type of thing. But this was the first one that was being sold to the consumer, to your mom and dad, my mom and dad. It was a Betamax. Shortly afterwards, the VHS recorders would follow. In 1975, the highest grossing movie was Jaws. Oh, do you guys remember seeing Jaws in the movie theater? I did not. I did not see it until years later. It was a summer blockbuster directed by Steven Spielberg that became the first film to reach over $100 million at the U.S. box office. And the number one song of 1975 was Love Will Keep Us Together by the Captain and Tennille. And I initially had thought I was going to make a joke about the song not working. But you know what? Yes, they are divorced now. They divorced in 2014. But those two were married for 39 years. So, hey, it worked. Love did keep them together. All right. So with all that said, let's talk for a few minutes about TV shows, the top TV shows of 1975. And I'm going to turn the microphone over to a Dave Sundstrom who had a much better voice and wasn't sick. And I'll be back in just a little bit. I know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know already. The 70s were an amazing time for television. By the time we were halfway through the decade, the big three networks, CBS, NBC, and ABC, well, they were clicking on all cylinders. When I take a look back at the top TV shows based on the Nielsen rating system, I can't find a bad program on the list, especially when I focus on the top 10 TV shows for 75. So without any further delay, let's take a trip back in time and see what the most popular shows in the US were that year. And I bet when we're done, you'll agree with me that these programs were some of the best ever. Coming in at the number 10 spot is One Day at a Time. That show starred Bonnie Franklin, Mackenzie Phillips, Pat Harrington, and of course, the cute as a button Valerie Bertinelli. Now, I know there are those that are going to disagree with me, but I think this show was one of Norman Lear's best. I say that because I felt like the show still tackled some pretty topical issues, but it didn't seem as heavy-handed as some of his other shows. And it did seem like I laughed more when I was watching this program. In the number 9 spot, we have Happy Days. Oh, I loved this show when it debuted during the mid-70s on ABC. You know, for me, although this was a nostalgic slice of life from the 50s, that really wasn't the appeal. As a kid, I just really enjoyed watching the adventures of Richie, Ralph, and Potsy, and of course, the Fonz. And you know what? I'm not ashamed to admit it. There was a point when I had a bit of a crush on Aaron Moran. In the number 8 spot, we have The $6 Million Man, and it was during the 1975-76 TV season when Bigfoot made his debut on this wonderful show that starred Lee Majors as Colonel Steve Austin, a man barely alive who was rebuilt using bionic parts to the tune of $6 million. You know, that first appearance of Bigfoot during the 75 TV season, the guy behind all that fur was wrestler Andre the Giant. Later appearances would be done by veteran actor Ted Cassidy. You may know him better as Lurch from the Addams Family. In the number 7 spot, we have the first of what turned out to be many spin-offs from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. This one titled Rhoda, starring Valerie Harper. It also starred David Grohl as Rhoda's husband. You know, I really enjoyed the first season or so of this show, but I've got to say, as time went on, I watched it less and less. But there were lots of fans of this show, and who can deny the talent, the charm, the charisma, the appeal of Valerie Harper? She just was such a wonderful actress. In the number 6 spot, we have Sanford & Son, NBC's answer to All in the Family. Also produced by Norman Lear, this show was based on a British sitcom called Steptoe & Son and starred Red Fox as Fred Sanford, a cantankerous junk dealer who ran his shop along with his conscientious and peacemaking son Lamont, played by DeMond Wilson. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I love Aunt Esther, who is played by Fox's dear friend, comedian LaWanda Page. In the 5th position, we have another Mary Tyler Moore Show spin-off, Phyllis, starring one of Hollywood's most versatile actresses, Cloris Leachman. You know, I don't know if a lot of folks realize this, but Phyllis only ran for 2 seasons on CBS. It was a big hit, like I said, number 5 in the ratings during its first season, but that second season was tough. There were a lot of things that happened on set, including the deaths of a couple cast members, but it fell all the way to the 40th spot during the second season. Powering her way to being the 4th most watched show during the 75 TV season is actress Lindsay Wagner as Jamie Summers, the Bionic Woman. You know, I really loved this show. It was the perfect complement to the $6 Million Man, and like I said, Lindsay was awesome in this show. Now, I don't know if many folks remember this, but this show started out on ABC and then ended its run on NBC. Yeah, the network jettisoned the program along with Wonder Woman, which they sent to CBS during its final year because of sagging ratings. The 3rd most popular show during the 1975 television season in the United States was Maude. This extremely popular show was perhaps one of the most controversial as well. You know, I've said it before. I started this list with One Day at a Time, but this is another Norman Lear show, and he loved to tackle the tough topics of the day. And Maude, well, it probably was the most brave when it came to those heavy issues and covering them fearlessly, not worrying at how television viewers would respond. And this was the number 2 TV show during the 75 TV season. You know, these 2 ladies made me laugh like nobody else. Aside from being very funny, I would describe them both as plucky, silly, and loyal to each other to a fault, because they were the best of friends. Yep, Laverne DeFazio and Shirley Feeney, as portrayed by Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams, were a true class act. This may have been my favorite TV show during the 1975 TV season, but it wasn't America's, so here's America's number 1 pick. Once again, All in the Family was the number 1 rated television show during the 1975-76 TV season. This program just had such enduring appeal. A lot of that had to do with the cast. Everybody was great in this show, and I've already mentioned how much I enjoyed Carroll O'Connor. He made me like Archie Bunker, even though that man had so many darn shortcomings. All in all, that show would run for 9 seasons on CBS before transitioning into another hit program, Archie Bunker's Place. You know, I feel like I have to mention Rich Man, Poor Man. This miniseries was such a big hit for ABC during the 75 TV season. but it wasn't an actual TV series, so I'm giving it a bit of an honorable mention here. Well, I would mention the Waltons if it had been in the top 10, but it was not. So while I enjoyed the Waltons quite a bit, it was not part of that presentation. However, if you want to hear me talk about the Waltons, just go to my channel. Go to the video section, do a little search, type in Waltons. There's plenty for you to find. Okay. Let's see. Let's do this. I'd love to read some comments. So anything you guys want to put in the comment section, I'm going to do my very best to read as many of them. This is what I like to call going Thresh Pondo mode. My friend Bob Ponce, there's no better at doing this than Bob. I am going to make sure I've got taken care of milestone messages and super chats, which I have. And we are going to go fast, starting at 7 o'clock. That's where I'm going back up to in the chats. And then I'm going to zoom through these messages. So, and I will skip the ones where people just say hi to each other. Just a heads up on that. Oh, we're going to start with this one. Channel member Angela McArdle says Saturday Night Live premiered October 11th in 1975. Definitely worth mentioning. Denise Trichler is here and says, I was born in 1975, just turned 50 in March. Well, happy belated birthday to you, Denise. And thanks for joining us tonight for the live stream. Richard Warehouse says, how did I forget about Starsky and Hutch? And Pat McCormick says, no, don't talk about money. Oh, that must have been where I was talking about average income and that kind of stuff. Pat, you and I both, buddy. Anybody that's got money in the stock markets here in, well, I was going to say in the U.S., but it's a global thing right now. You're not loving life. And the great orange one, who I like to just call Donald J. Tariff, and we're not going to talk politics tonight, but Donald J. Tariff is one man is affecting the entire global economy right now, for better or worse. And if you have money in your 401ks in the stock market, it's for worse. All right. Moonstorm says 1975 was a very bad year. Both Larry and Moe kicked the bucket. Yes, very bad year. Emba, welcome to the live stream, says I was 6. Rachel Warehouse says lots of hits in 75, for sure. For sure. Lamont Bradford points out that Welcome Back Kotter premiered that year. And Underway Studios says Gerald Ford was the Speaker of the House before he became Vice President. I thought he was, before he became President. He was VP. Was he not? So Speaker of the House as well. I need to go back and learn a little political history because I was not aware of that. Retro Warehouse says Wonder Woman. It's worth saying. Just say it. Wonder Woman. Let's see. Emboss says ARG. Sakina points out that Ford pardoned Richard Nixon. And Adrian James says, welcome to the 50s Club, Denise. I'm 55 in July. Let's see. The furry bastard says, is it me or does Bill Gates look like a young Mr. Burns in that picture? Willie Bone got his first color TV in 1975. And Julie Evans pointed out that Forrest Gump got Nixon in trouble. Carrie Stephens, channel member Carrie Stephens these days says Betamax. Yes. And Retro Warehouse points out that Donnie Marie debuted in January of 76. For some reason, I did think it was 75. Maybe they just had some specials on in 75. Channel member Andrew McCardle says, my grandmother had a Betamax. And Tom McCluskey says, I had one too. And channel member Tracy Rothmeyer says, yep, that's the exact VCR my parents had. And channel member Carlos Seja says they were very expensive. Indeed, they were. They weren't something that everyone could run out and buy because you had to be an early adopter. And when you're an early adopter of any technology, you're going to pay more. John McJunkin says 1975, Barney Miller, Alice, One Day at a Time, Laverne and Shirley, Saturday Night Live, Starsky and Hutch all got their start, and Gunsmoke came to an end. Let's see. Retro Warehouse saw the re-release of Jaws and Jaws 3D in the theaters. No better place to see Jaws 3D. Not a great movie, but no better place than in the theaters. Lamont points out that Gunsmoke was canceled after 20 years. And channel member Tracy Rothmeyer says $2,000 for a Betamax. And channel member Carlos Seja says that's how the Blockbuster craze started, although it would be decades before a Blockbuster came out. Lots of mom and pop video stores before that. I mentioned the captain, and Tanil and Rachel points out that Daryl Dragon has passed on. That is true. Retro Warehouse says, yep, summer. Jaws got the summer blockbuster started, and Willie Bowen says Bee Gees released Fanny, Be Tender, Nights on Broadway, and Jive Talkin'. Let's see. Famous actors who got married in 1975, according to Melina Long, are Patrick Swayze and Ron Howard and Robert Urich. Let's see. Sakina McMurran says that transit fare was 50 cents back then. And let's see. Channel member Carrie Stevens points out that MASH was riding high in 1975. It was the beginning of the third season, final season with McLean Stevenson. Pat McCormick says, I'll say this, the 50s and 60s ruled. And Retro Warehouse points out that there were a lot of good low-rated shows, too. Yes, there were. Julie Evans says, I can hear the Jaws music in my head right now. The Furry Bastard says that when Frank Burns left, MASH began to die. There's a lot of reasons why MASH changed a lot over the years. Tom McCluskey says, I was glued to TV in 75. Greg Applegren, welcome to the live stream, points out a lot of great shows that were on TV in 75. And Ernest Cruz says, Mrs. Van Halen, clearly talking about Valerie Bertinelli. Channel member Sean Ennis points out a number of great movies that came out in 1975, among them Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And I really loved One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, too. Rachel Warehouse says Valerie Bertinelli and Mackenzie Phillips were childhood crushes. Let's see. Rachel Warehouse says that 1975 was stacked at the box office. Yeah, for sure. Jerry Gillespie says, love Valerie Bertinelli. She's a semi-regular on the Drew Barrymore show now. Speaking of Bigfoot, I believe that's when I was talking about the $6 Million Man. We've got Ernest Cruz pointing out that that was Andre the Giant, at least at first. And then the Furry Bastard says, yep, it was Bigfoot was played by Andre the Giant and Ted Cassidy. Uncle Paul says, still love Valerie. I'm loyal to my TV crushes. Let's see. Retro Warehouse says Valerie was a cutie. Retro Warehouse says loved Rhoda. Lamont Bradford points out it's Andre the Giant under all that fur. Rachel Natui says, I loved Rhoda. The Furry Bastard says, bet he doesn't mention Rich Man, Poor Man. And I did. Just barely, though. Just barely, though. Retro Warehouse says, I caught up on Rhoda's later episodes in recent years on the Retro Networks. And yes, a lot of us thought Valerie Harper was pretty darn awesome back then. Willie Bowen hated All in the Family, and Rachel in 208 loved and Esther. So did I. Auburn Kim points out Chico and the Man. When was that? I love that show. Was it 76? Julie Evans said, you rang. Speaking of Ted Cassidy. And let's see. The Furry Bastard points out it's Lindsay Wagner. I did not realize it was more popular than the $6 Million Man in 1975. Let's see. 1974 for Chico and the Man. Okay. Auburn Kim says that Freddie was her first or their first crush. Let's see. 70s was stacked for any males, says Rachel Warehouse. Let's see. Tammy Patton, welcome. Good to have you here on the live stream tonight. And channel member Lance Chaffin says, loved it when Steve Austin battled the Death Probe. Yeah, that was great stuff. Great television for sure. Retro Warehouse points out that Adrienne Barbeau was another crush. And John H. points out that Wonder Woman started on ABC for the first season, or is it 1.5 seasons? Thought it was a single season and then moved over to CBS for 2. Football Jesus says Happy Days was good and real that first season. Yeah, they moved to a multicam studio setup and it lost some, a layer of authenticity there. Patty Dixon, welcome to the live stream. Good to have you here. Says, I love all Norman Lear shows. Such a genius. And Bertine Leffingwell Jr. says the Bionic Woman ended up marrying the $6 million man. Yes, in the TV movie Bionic Ever After, which, interestingly enough, aired on CBS. Although all of the shows, $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, they all aired on ABC or NBC. Richard Warehouse says, Cindy Williams, another crush. Willie Bowen says, I left out Starsky and Hutch. I was just talking about the top 10. Just talking about the top 10, but there are videos about Starsky and Hutch and the actors who starred in them on my channel if you want to check them out. Grayman Media says, I've got a series topic for you. Awesome. Let me have it. Let's see what else we got going on. Auburn Kim remembers that you and your best friend had to do the opening to Laverne and Shirley at recess that year. At every recess that year. Yeah. And channel member Angela McCardle says, love Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley. Yes, I did too. Hello. There you go. I got cursed at tonight. Oh, man. I'd like to go one live stream without someone cursing at me. We still love you anyway, furry bastard. Rachel the 208 says Sally Struthers did not have kind words for Norman Lear. Yeah, recently she said some interesting things about Norman. We won't go into them here. Diet Coke to the rescue. Love that Sammy Davis episode on All in the Family. So fun. Archie Bunker's Place was a worthy follow-up to All in the Family. Uncle Paul says, of course, Sally Struthers was the voice of season 1 of Pebbles and Bam Bam Show, pairing her with, it comes around, Jay North. All comes together tonight, Dave. It sure does. Grayman Media says this was the last time All in the Family would be number 1. After this, Happy Days would be number 1 and Laverne and Shirley in 78 and 79. Good info. Thanks for sharing. Furry Bastard mentions that Rich Man, Poor Man launched the careers of Richard Strauss and Nick Nolte. Indeed, it did. Julie Evans mentions that Maude covered abortion when it was considered taboo. Channel member John Collins and I talk about that very topic in the latest video on my channel. Yes, I am drinking the hard stuff. I had to, during that video, run out and grab myself a Diet Coke. Hopefully it'll just kind of, it'll caress my throat. Make things better for the last few minutes. Retro Warehouse points out that ABC started to take over the decade in 76. Jerry Gillespie says that Mickey Rooney was asked to play Archie Bunker, but turned it down because he thought it would damage his Boy Next Door image. Retro Warehouse says Fred Silverman, who ran CBS, left in 1976 and got ABC on top the rest of the decade to the 80s. Yeah, for sure. Beretta also started in 75. Did not know that, Mike. Beretta was the spiritual successor to another show called Toma. Different actors, but similar in themes. And Toma was based on a real life character. Channel member John Collins drops another super chat saying 60 Minutes was not in the top 10 in 1975. I might have dropped it out, just discounting the news shows. I can't remember if I did or not when I was putting together that video a few months back. 60 Minutes always seems to be in the top 10. Good point, John. And thank you for that super chat. I'm going to bring on a little Shatner for that one and then something else afterwards. Not sure yet.
No, I thank you. And again, I thank you.
I almost went Welk, but I remembered there's some folks that don't want Welk tonight. So
And now it's time a little dancing. Here we go.
That's some nice dancing, Steve, and it's a very kind super chat, John. Thank you. All right, let's see what we got going here. David Thomas pops in to say hello. Hello, David. Good to have you with us. Channel member Bob Pons. I'm in Thresh Pondo mode right now. Bob says, you honor me, my brother. Well, no one does it better than you. Quite frankly, I wish you were on with me tonight to do this for me. Let's see. Auburn Kim says Phyllis was the least favorite of all these shows when they were airing. John H says both my grandmothers loved the Waltons. One of my grandmothers was watching the Waltons when my grandfather died. Oh. Let's see. Hey, it's Ms. Elizabeth says hello there and good evening. Ms. Elizabeth is also known as channel member Music Girl 67. She says, just in from work and hoping that you all are doing fantastic and that your week is off to a fabulous start. I hope your week is off to a fabulous start, Ms. Elizabeth. Thanks for joining us. Channel member Sean Innes says there was an episode of Happy Days where they did this trick with putting quarters on your elbow and then snatching them with the hand of the same arm. I remember doing that too, Sean. Suvi says, do you remember ISIS and Shazam? Oh, I have done many videos on both of those programs. I sure do. I loved both of them an awful lot. They aired on CBS on Saturday mornings. The Furry Bastard says, All in the Family is an American take on the British sitcom Till Death Do Us Part. Yes, there were a number of British sitcoms that the U.S. appropriated during the 70s. One of them being Three's Company, which was Man in the House or Man of the House, Man About the House, something like that. Mike Davis says Beretta also started in 75. Indeed, it did. Keep your eye on the sparrow, my friend. Keep your eye on the sparrow. Carlos Ceja says, few remember on ABC there was a short-lived sitcom about a Hispanic family in 75. Was it Poppy's Family? Was that what it was called? Julie says I was named after a character in Rich Van Poor Man. Cool. TFB says Huggy Bear should have had a spin-off show. I loved Antonio Fargas' Huggy Bear. He was great. Willie Bowen says R.I.P. David Soul. Yeah. Denise Trichler says, you said my name correctly, too. I hope I did. Oh. Hot L. Baltimore. Who remembers that show on ABC? A Norman Lear creation. Lasted just one season. John H. says, no, Gerald Ford wasn't House Minority Leader. The party didn't run Congress when he was leader. Gray Man Media drops a super chat into the stream here and says, why not do a murderer's row of primetime shows? Tell me more. Tell me more about that, Gray Man. What you mean by murderer's row? Interested. Yeah, I didn't talk much about music tonight, but certainly they were a force to be reckoned with in the 70s, particularly around 75, Willie. And of course, we got Saturday Night Fever in, 77? Retro Warehouse points out that Family came out a year later in 76. Channel member Carlos Ceja, sharing memory, says around 75, I saw Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory on The Wonderful World of Disney. And Retro Warehouse says, yeah, there were some Donnie Marie specials before the show became a series. Okay, I'm going to scroll through and just see if I missed any super chats, anything like that. Folks, I'm not as good as Bob. Just quite frankly, not as good at Bob at going through all the comments. And I'm struggling here a little bit. And we're hitting the hour mark, which means it's time for me to wrap things up. But I will do my best to go through and read all the comments in the chat later on. Oh, wait, there is a super chat from Mike Davis. So I want to make sure I highlight that. Mike says, thanks for all you do, Dave. You are a healing balm. Well, thank you for all your support, Mike. I always love reading your comments and, in my videos in the comments section. And I really, truly feel like you are a brother from another mother. we love a lot of the same shows, and just think you're an awesome fella, and I'm glad that you're part of our community. And I need to find I don't know if I need to throw a couple thank yous out because I might have missed one earlier. I read it, but I don't think I said thank you. So we've talked about All in the Family tonight. So we'll do a little Archie, Bunker, and then why not do another 70s kind of, maybe a little Charo? Yeah, maybe. No, we're going to do Wonder Woman. Yeah, thank you for all your wonderful support. I truly appreciate each one of you tonight. I think that's it in terms of me reading comments out of the chat. I'm going to give the voice box a bit of a rest here. I have some commercials, though, from 1975 that I'd love to share with you before I go. But thanks again to everybody for joining with me this evening. And I hope the rest of your week is super awesome. Thanks again, folks. Take care, and we'll talk to you all very, very soon. Where are those commercials? Let me find them. Here they are.
Mark Twain for Meade. When I was at school, I used to lose my papers almost as fast as I wrote on them. I should have had the classifier from Meade. The classifier has a perforated writing pad and 3 filing pockets. So get a classifier for every subject. And get my new book, Blueberry Finn. The classifier only for Meade.
Hey, let's play McDonald's French fry word game. Don't be shy. Give it a try. Think of a word. Play the fry.
The financial section.
Hello, Dr. Fried? I'm having a identity crisis.
Take some McDonald's fries and call me in the morning.
Right.
They're fantastic.
Dynamite.
At McDonald's, we do it all for you. At McDonald's.
12 coffees, 9 with cream.
You're on.
Maxine, that's instant coffee.
Not just instant coffee. Instant Maxwell House. I make every cup fresh. See those flavor buds? They're what does it.
Tastes fresh.
Right. When you make it fresh, every cup tastes fresh, like your first cup in the morning. Good to the last drop. And that last drop's pretty good, too. I think I'll have a cup.
Instant Maxwell House.
Good to the last drop.
Breathe in chocolate, breathe out mint. That's Tootsie Roll Minties.
Super, Ollie, what's going on?
We're enjoying Tootsie Roll Minties, friends. Minties are chewy, chocolatey Tootsie Roll and refreshing mints. Now breathe in and out.
Chocolate. Mint.
Breathe in chocolate, breathe out mint. That's Tootsie Roll Minties.
You know, we began working long before we opened our Pizza Hut restaurant. Looks like Mr. Emery's got us another load of fresh vegetables. Jack and Rudy mix up fresh dough. The way we make pizza and pasta and sandwiches makes for some extra work, but it's a lot of fun, too. And when that first customer walks in, we're ready. People here really are the best. And I ought to know, I'm Seth Adams, the manager.
You are special.
You didn't have to do it, but you did.